this third video, I'm going to explain the actual process of applying and also try and give you some idea of what we're looking for in our applicants. While there's a couple of extra steps to applying to Cambridge, I like to think that in some ways explaining what we're looking for is actually simpler than it is for many universities. To apply for an undergraduate course at any mainstream university in the UK, you must apply through UCAS. For most university courses you can apply pretty much throughout the year. However, if you want to apply for Oxford, Cambridge, medicine or veterinary medicine, you must apply by October the 15th. Once you've applied to Cambridge, you'll then be sent a request to fill in what we call the supplementary application questionnaire, which you can do online. You must fill this in, but it's not actually very exciting. It often asks you things like how many people there were in your various classes when you were in your last 2 years at school, or were you able to do all the courses you wanted to. There is a section where you can add an extra little personal statement that just goes to Cambridge and not on your main UCAS form, but many applicants think, well, I've written everything on my main form, I don't want to put anything here, so they leave that box blank, so that's absolutely fine. Once we have all those applications in some of our subjects, most sciences and a few arts and humanities, there are pre-interview admissions assessments which are sat in late October, early November. You sit these at an exam centre. That would probably be your school. Everybody doing pre-interview admissions assessments takes them on the same day, and often it's the same day as the Oxford entrance exam as well. So you may find there's quite a few people in the room taking different exams with you at the same time. For some arts and humanities subjects, you'll be asked to send in some written work that you've done at school. In December, we do our interviews. We decide who to interview, and then in a period of about 2 weeks, we invite lots of people to Cambridge for interviews. In some subjects which haven't yet had an admissions assessment, there's an admissions assessment taken on the day that you come for your interview, so you get it all out of the way in one go. We then go away and make various decisions about our applicants. But one thing that's very important to say is early in the new year, you won't be aware this is going on, we have a process called the intercollegiate pool. Now this is something we have to ensure fairness between applicants at different colleges. For example, if people have applied to a college which has lots of very good applicants in that subject that year, we don't want them to be disadvantaged. Equally, if you apply to a college that doesn't have many good applicants that year, we don't want you to be unfairly advantaged either. So what happens in that process is that colleges that think they have more good applicants in particular subjects than they have space for can really donate them to other colleges. And this is a very efficient system for evening out applications across the university. It's one of the reasons why which college you apply to doesn't have any effect on your chances of getting in, and it does work very effectively. Across Cambridge, about a fifth of our students actually end up allocated to a different college. So then, when the offer letters and decision letters go out, or they're actually emails nowadays, there are really three types. There's the one that everybody's excited about, which is to say, we're very pleased to be able to make you an offer to read, I don't know, history in 2021. There's the email that obviously we don't like sending and you don't like receiving, which is where it says, well, sorry, unfortunately we're not able to make an offer in this case. And then there's this third scenario where you're contacted by a different college who says, we would like to make you an offer to read this subject in this year. And in that case, your application has gone through the pool. Every year we put people in the pool, and we take other people out of the pool. So it is a good way of ensuring fairness across the entire university system. Then there's quite a lull. Most of our applicants apply before they've got their school exam results. They apply in the last year of school. So there's obviously a wait until exam results come out in mid-August, and that's when we finally finalise who is going to be joining us that October to start the next academic year as a first year. What do we look at? There are various things we look at, and we have quite a lot of information about which ones are important. The first of these, we know that one of the best predictors in performance at Cambridge is performance in relevant academic subjects in your last 2 years at school. Now, I'm going to keep saying A-levels, but obviously many people are doing systems other than A-levels, and that's absolutely fine. We can deal with those as well. Those are our typical conditional offers for some of the UK systems. In general, it's A-star AA for arts and humanities, but also vet and psychology, and A-star A for most of the sciences, but also economics. And St Catharine's really puts a lot of effort into making sure that we use these typical offers except in very unusual circumstances. So if you get an offer, you can pretty much predict what it's going to be from St Catharine's. Now, we don't know that much, unfortunately, about how you're doing in your last 2 years at school. Not many people do AS levels anymore. And so instead, Cambridge introduced a proxy system of these admissions assessments, which are a test that you take during the admissions process that attempts to work out how you are doing in these important subjects at school. So scientists are effectively doing a science test. English literature applicants are doing an English literature test, effectively. Bear in mind that for medicine, the admissions assessment is the BMAT, which of course is also used by several other universities as well. Mathematicians, you don't have an assessment at this time, but you will be asked, if you get an offer, to take the STEP exam around the time of your A-level exams. We do look at GCSEs a bit, but we know that they're not as good a predictor of performance at Cambridge as the A-level stages. So we do look at them, but just not as much as A-levels. Now, there's lots of stuff on your UCAS application form, and actually much of it is not so important to Cambridge as it probably is at other universities. Your personal statement, we don't assess the quality of your personal statement at all for various reasons. We don't think it would be fair. We may look at it to pick things off to ask you about at interview, but that's really all the information that it provides for our process. Certainly, St Catharine's doesn't look very much at predictions. We're soon going to find out how you do in your A-levels, so we don't really look at predictions very much. Your school reference is useful if it tells us anything important about gaps in your own educational support or problems that your school has been having, for example. We're not interested in extracurricular activities. We know they can be very important to you, but we're an academic institution and those won't form any part of our decision making. Work experience, we encourage applicants in medicine, veterinary medicine, to gain work experience, although we will not be expecting it for 2020 applicants for obvious reasons. The most important thing you can put on your UCAS form is what we call supracurricular activities. This is reading or using internet resources or trips or competitions that you've been involved in that take you beyond the academic material in your school subjects. And this can be anything. So I would interpret the format of this very widely, and also the actual subject can be very broad as well. So for example, in my own subject, veterinary medicine, anything to do with science or maths in any field I would take as relevant supracurricular interests. So don't feel it has to be incredibly narrow. In some arts and humanities subjects, you'll be asked to submit written work soon after you apply. And you can go on our website to see full information of who will have to send this in. This should just be work that you've done during your school. It's not submitted coursework or anything like that, but importantly we want it marked. This is as much to assess the level of feedback you've been getting on your work as it is to assess your own work. And then we come to the interviews, which I'm going to say more about in a second. Now, it's important to realise that we look at all of this information at every stage in the process. We look at all the information available to us at that time. There's no one factor which overrules all the others. So, for example, when we're juggling our decisions and deciding who's going to get an offer, we may let performance in the admissions assessments outweigh some gaps in your GCSEs, or we may let good performance in the interview outweigh a little gap in your admissions assessment, but we weigh and balance all these things together at the same time. There's no one definitive test that decides whether you get an offer or not. You hear lots of stuff about Cambridge interviews, probably most of it wrong. In a way, what we're looking for is very simple. We want all the students with the most academic potential, the students who will do best on our academic courses if they come to us. Now, how do we do that? The interview is quite a good way of doing that. It's one of the ways we do that. And what happens is you come to us, and on a single day you will have probably 2 interviews, probably 25 minutes each, probably each with 2 people. And what are we looking for in those interviews? We're looking for real academic enthusiasm, not superficial general enthusiasm. It doesn't matter if you come to us and you're very shy or anything like that, because what we'll do is we may ask you a settling question like, why do you want to study history? But very rapidly we'll get down to the nitty-gritty of something quite technical. In the sciences, obviously we can give you a problem or a little calculation to work out. In other things, you may be given a text or an article to analyse. You may be given it before the interview. You may be given it in the interview, but it'll be something that you won't have seen before. We also may, especially in some subjects, discuss your academic interests, things that you've read, things in current affairs, and also your submitted work. But obviously that depends on the subject that you are applying for. In all of this, what we will be doing is we'll be introducing something novel, a novel text or a novel concept or idea, but we'll try and get you to work through it using the skills which you've acquired at school. Because of this, there's no real specific preparation needed, and you certainly should not be paying one of these organisations who claim to train you for a Cambridge interview, because they can't, because they don't know what we're going to ask you. One thing that is useful, however, is getting a sort of 20-25 minute slot with a teacher or two, just to get used to the format of talking about academic stuff for that period of time with a teacher. Because then when you come for your interview at St Catharine's, you'll find that's what you're having, a sort of 25-minute chat about academic stuff. Now, we do know you will be nervous, so we are aware of this. We will be nice to you. The last thing we want to do is lose out on a very academically able applicant because they were nervous, and that's why we'll help you through the system. We will talk through the interview. We will help you along with things that you're going through, so don't worry if we seem to be doing quite a lot of the talking. Many students find their interview quite challenging because we'll just keep asking harder and harder things to see how you get on. But in any interview in life, if you're doing very well in the interview, you may be asked some very difficult things. So don't take the difficulty of the interview as a bad sign. Many of our students find their interview interesting. We often try and introduce something that might change the way you think of things or you may not have thought about before. And so I think for some of our applicants, the interview is actually the thing that makes them realise that they really do want to come and study at Cambridge.